There is a kind of betrayal that does not come from an enemy. It does not come from someone you barely know or someone you had every reason to distrust. The worst kind of betrayal, the kind that changes you permanently, comes from the person who slept in the bed next to yours when you were children. The person who borrowed your clothes without asking, who cried with you when your father passed, who stood at the altar and watched you say, "I do," with tears running down her face. That is the betrayal that breaks something inside of you that no amount of time can fully put back together. And that is exactly what happened to a woman named Serena, a 34-year-old Philadelphia native who thought she had everything she ever prayed for, until a single Tuesday evening in October turned her entire world to ash. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And if you are new here, click the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Serena grew up in West Philadelphia, in a row house on a narrow block where the front steps were swept clean every Saturday morning and the smell of her grandmother's biscuits drifted through every room before the sun had fully risen. She was the older of two sisters. Her sister, Tasha, was 3 years younger, bright, loud, magnetic, the kind of girl who walked into a room and rearranged it just by being there. Growing up, people always said the two of them were inseparable. And they were. They shared everything. Clothes, secrets, heartbreaks, dreams. When Serena got accepted to Temple University, Tasha threw her a small party in the backyard with dollar store streamers and a cake from the corner bakery on Baltimore Avenue. When Tasha got her first serious boyfriend and he broke her heart 4 months later, it was Serena who sat on the bathroom floor with her at 2 in the morning, handing her tissue after tissue while the radiator knocked and hissed in the corner. They were not just sisters. They were each other's foundation. Serena met Darius during her junior year at Temple. He was a communications major, tall and quiet in that deliberate way, the kind of man who listened before he spoke, who remembered small things you mentioned in passing. He remembered that Serena liked her coffee with oat milk and 2 sugars. He remembered that she hated the sound of styrofoam. He showed up to her campus job one afternoon during a slow shift with a cup from the shop 3 blocks away, and from that moment, she was done. They dated for 2 years, moved in together after graduation, and got married in a small ceremony at a church in Germantown on a warm June afternoon when Serena was 28. Tasha was her maid of honor. She gave a toast that made every single person in that room cry. She talked about how Serena had always been her safe place, how Darius was the only man she had ever met who loved her sister the way her sister deserved to be loved. She raised her glass and said, "I am so grateful God brought you into this family, Darius. You are exactly what she needed." And Serena believed her. She believed every word of it. For the first 5 years of their marriage, life was genuinely good. Darius worked as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm in Center City, and Serena worked as a school counselor at a middle school in North Philadelphia. They bought a row house in Germantown, 3 bedrooms, a small backyard with a maple tree, a kitchen with just enough space for both of them to cook together on Sunday afternoons without bumping into each other. They were not rich, but they were comfortable. More importantly, they were happy. They had disagreements the way all couples do, about money, about whose family they would visit for the holidays, about the fact that Darius left cabinet doors open and Serena reorganized closets without warning, but nothing that ever made either of them question what they had built together. They were solid. They were a team. Tasha was in and out of their lives the way younger siblings often are. She had her own apartment in South Philly, her own social life, her own circle of friends that Serena did not always know by name. But she came around for dinners, for birthday celebrations, for random Saturday afternoons when she would just show up at their door with a bottle of wine and something she needed to talk through. Darius always welcomed her. He would pull out a chair, pour her a glass, and sit across from her like she was his own family. Serena loved watching them interact. It made her feel like her 2 worlds, her family of origin and the family she was building, had merged into something whole. Then, 3 years ago, Tasha went through a bad stretch. She lost her job at the marketing firm where she had worked for 4 years, got behind on her rent, and ended her relationship with a man named Kevin, who she had been seeing for nearly 2 years. She called Serena crying one evening in February, her voice thin and tight like a wire about to snap. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she said. "I can't afford this apartment anymore and I don't have anywhere to go." Serena did not hesitate. She talked to Darius that same night, and by the weekend, Tasha had moved into their third bedroom. It was supposed to be temporary. 3 months, maybe 4, just until Tasha got back on her feet. Darius said he was fine with it. He even helped Tasha move her boxes up the front steps on a cold Saturday morning, carrying the heaviest ones without being asked. Ask yourself honestly, if you were in Serena's position, would you have done the same thing? Most of us would. Because she is your sister. Because that is what family does. But sometimes the very thing that feels like love is the thing that opens the door to destruction. The first 4 months were fine. Normal, even. Tasha got a part-time remote job doing social media work for a small boutique. She helped around the house, cooked dinner twice a week, cleaned up after herself. Darius and Tasha would sometimes watch basketball together when Serena stayed late at the school for parent conferences. Serena would come home to find them on the couch, game on the TV, take-out containers on the coffee table, and she would feel something warm in her chest, gratitude, maybe, or just the comfort of a house that felt full. She had no reason to feel anything else. Not then. But looking back, and this is the part Serena has told in her own words, looking back, she can identify the exact moment things started to shift. It was a Wednesday evening in July, 7 months after Tasha moved in. Serena came home from work early because the school had let out for a staff professional development day. She walked in through the front door and heard laughing coming from the kitchen. Not loud, not inappropriate, just laughter. The easy, private kind. The kind you have with someone when no one else is around. She walked into the kitchen and Tasha and Darius were standing at the counter, and whatever they had been laughing about stopped the moment she walked in. Darius smiled at her. Tasha waved. Everything looked normal. But the laughter, that specific laughter, stayed with Serena. Not because it was wrong, but because it was familiar in a way she did not recognize. Like she had heard it somewhere before but not in her own house. She told herself she was being ridiculous. She told herself she was tired from work, that she was reading too much into a moment that meant nothing. She kissed Darius, said hello to Tasha, and went upstairs to change her clothes. She did not say anything. She did not ask. She buried it. Weeks passed. The feeling came and went. There was nothing she could point to, no lipstick on a collar, no late-night phone calls, no obvious lies. Just a texture that had changed in her own home, something she could feel but could not name. Darius was still affectionate, still present, still the man she knew. Tasha was still her sister, helpful, chatty, normal. But there were moments. A glance that lasted a half-second too long. A conversation that went quiet just a little too quickly. Serena started paying attention in a way she never had before, and that is the hardest kind of watching, the kind where you are desperately hoping you will not find what you are looking for. Then came October. The second Tuesday of October, just after 7 in the evening. Darius had gone to the gym. He went 3 nights a week, usually for about 90 minutes. Tasha had gone out to see a friend. Serena was in the bedroom folding laundry when she heard Darius's phone buzz on the nightstand. He had left it behind. She ignored it the first time. It buzzed again. And then again. She walked over, not with any intention of snooping, just to turn the screen face down so the buzzing would not distract her. But the screen was already lit up, and the name she saw in the notification banner stopped every single function of her body at once. It was Tasha. 3 messages in a row. The first one said, "She's not home yet, right?" The second one said, "I miss you already." The third one, and this is the one that Serena has described as the moment her knees stopped working, the third one said, "What are we going to do? I can't keep doing this." Serena stood in that bedroom for what she later described as the longest 60 seconds of her life. The laundry was still on the bed. The TV was on downstairs, some evening news program, the anchor's voice drifting up through the floor. The maple tree in the backyard was moving against the window. Everything around her was completely ordinary, and she was standing in the middle of it with her heart being pulled out of her chest through her ribs. She picked up the phone. She should tell you she hesitated, but she did not. She opened Darius's messages. And what she found was not a single conversation but a thread that went back 4 months, to June. Texts and voice notes and, on one occasion, a phone call that had lasted 2 hours and 43 minutes on a night when Serena had been at a weekend retreat with colleagues in the Pocono Mountains. 4 months of messages that told a story she had not known she was living in. They spoke to each other with a level of tenderness that Serena recognized, because it was the same tenderness Darius used with her. Or had used with her. Or maybe had been using with both of them simultaneously, and she had never known the difference. How would you feel? If you are watching this and you have ever loved someone completely and trusted someone completely, a partner, a sibling, anyone, how would you feel finding out in a single moment that both of those people had been looking at you every single day, sitting across from you at dinner, hugging you goodnight, and hiding something this enormous? Take a moment. Really think about it. Because Serena did not have the luxury of imagining it. She was living it. She put the phone back on the nightstand exactly the way she found it. She sat on the edge of the bed. And then she did something that surprised even herself, she did not cry. She had always assumed that if something this bad happened, she would fall apart immediately. But she did not. She just sat there, very still, while something inside of her recalibrated. Later she would say it felt like her body was deciding who she was going to be from that moment forward. When Darius came home from the gym 40 minutes later, she was in the kitchen. She had made tea. She was sitting at the table with both hands around the mug, and she looked up at him when he walked in, and she said, very calmly, "I need you to sit down." Darius looked at her face and something shifted in his, a flicker of something, just for a second. He sat down. She placed his phone on the table between them. She said, "Your phone was buzzing while you were gone. I saw the messages from Tasha." She paused. Then she said, "I read everything." Darius went completely still. And the silence that followed, Serena has said this was actually the loudest thing she has ever heard in her life. He did not lie. She has always given him that. He looked at the phone on the table and he did not construct a story or pretend or deflect. He said, "Serena." Just her name. Like an apology and a confession all at once. And she said, "Don't. Don't say my name like that right now. Just tell me the truth." And he did. It had begun in June. A conversation one evening when Serena was working late, that had gone somewhere neither of them planned, or so he said. He said it had never been physical. Just messages. Just feelings. Feelings he did not understand and had not acted on beyond the words on that screen. He said he knew it was wrong. He said he had been trying to end it. Serena sat across from him and listened to every word, and when he finished she stood up, took her mug of tea, walked upstairs, and locked the bedroom door. She called her best friend, a woman named Adrian, who had been her college roommate and had known her since she was 19 years old. Adrian lived 20 minutes away in Mount Airy. She was at Serena's front door within 35 minutes, still in her house shoes. She did not say much. She just sat on the bedroom floor with Serena while Serena finally cried, really cried, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere below language, below thought, from a place in the body that does not have a name. Adrian held her and rocked her and said, "I've got you. You're not alone. I've got you." Outside the bedroom door, they could hear Darius sitting on the top step of the stairs. He did not knock. He did not say anything. But he did not go anywhere either. Tasha came home around 10:30. Serena heard the front door, heard her footsteps in the hallway, heard everything go quiet. She did not go downstairs. She was not ready. Not that night. The next morning, Serena asked Darius to stay in the guest room. She went downstairs to where Tasha was sitting at the kitchen table, still in the previous night's clothes, clearly having not slept. When Tasha looked up and saw her sister's face, not angry, just hollowed out, like something essential had been removed, she started crying immediately. She said, "Serena, I'm so sorry." She said it over and over. She said she did not know how it happened. She said she hated herself. She said she had wanted to tell Serena so many times but was terrified. Serena listened to all of it. And then she said, very quietly, "I need you to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay. I can't have you in this house right now." Tasha nodded. She was out by noon. The weeks that followed were the hardest Serena had experienced since losing her father 7 years earlier. She went to work every day because the routine was the only thing that kept her from disappearing into the emptiness inside her chest. She sat with her students, listened to their problems, guided them through their conflicts, and then drove home to a house that felt like a stranger's house, familiar in its layout but utterly foreign in its feeling. Darius was still there, sleeping in the guest room, going to work, coming home quietly. She had not asked him to leave entirely. She was not sure why. Maybe because leaving was too final a word for what she had not yet decided. Maybe because 24 hours after her world collapsed, she did not trust herself to make permanent decisions. She started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Lorraine Foster, whose office was on Chestnut Street in Center City. Dr. Foster was warm and direct and did not sugarcoat anything, which was exactly what Serena needed. In their early sessions, Serena kept saying the same thing, "I don't know who I'm angrier at. My husband or my sister." Dr. Foster would nod and say, "Maybe you don't have to choose right now. Maybe they both hurt you in different ways and both of those things can be true." Serena found herself returning to that idea again and again. Because the pain from Darius felt like a wound, sharp and located, something she could press on and feel the edges of. But the pain from Tasha felt like something had been removed from the architecture of her life. Like a wall she had always leaned against was simply not there anymore. 3 months after that October night, Serena made a decision about her marriage. It was not the decision everyone expected. She and Darius began couples counseling with a therapist in Germantown who had been highly recommended by Dr. Foster. They went every week for 6 months. It was not a graceful process. There were sessions that ended in silence, sessions that ended in tears, sessions where Serena said things she had never said out loud before and was surprised to discover that the saying of them felt necessary, like draining something that had become infected. Darius showed up every week. He answered every question honestly, even when the honesty was ugly. He did not make excuses. He took responsibility in a way that Serena noticed, even when noticing it made her angry, because part of her wanted him to deflect so she could have a cleaner reason to walk away. But he did not give her that. And slowly, the conversation between them started to change. 6 months after October, Serena allowed Darius to move back into the bedroom. Not because everything was resolved. Not because she had forgiven him completely. But because she had decided that the marriage was worth the work and that she was willing to do it. She told him clearly, "This is not me saying it's okay. This is me saying I'm choosing to try. Don't mistake the two." He said he understood. He said he was grateful. She told him gratitude was a start but it was not enough, and that she would need to see who he chose to be over time. He said, "I know. I'm going to show you." And she looked at him and said, "You better." Tasha was harder. The sister wound went deeper in a different way. They did not speak for 4 months, the longest they had ever gone without contact in their entire lives. Serena's mother, a quiet and steady woman named Beverly, stayed out of it almost entirely except to say once, gently, "Whatever you decide to do, I want you to do it for yourself. Not for the family. Not for peace. For you." That was exactly the right thing to say, and Serena has never forgotten it. In the early spring, Serena agreed to meet Tasha for coffee at a small cafe on Baltimore Avenue, the same neighborhood where they had grown up. It was a Saturday morning. Tasha arrived first and was sitting at a corner table with her hands around her cup the same way Serena had been on that October night, and Serena noticed that, and something about it ached. When she sat down, they were quiet for a long moment. Then Tasha said, "I know there's nothing I can say that makes this okay." Serena said, "You're right. There isn't." Another silence. Then Serena said, "But I've been thinking a lot about who I want to be. And I don't want to be someone who loses her sister over this. I'm not saying it's fine. I'm not saying I trust you the way I did. I'm saying I'm not ready to lose you forever." Tasha's eyes filled up with tears. She nodded. She said, "I'll take whatever you're able to give." Serena said, "Then start with honesty. Just be honest with me. Going forward, just be honest." Tasha said, "I will. I promise." And they sat there in that cafe on Baltimore Avenue for another hour, not quite the same as they used to be, but not broken beyond all repair either. Rebuilding after something like this is not linear. Serena has been clear about that. There were days she woke up and felt okay, even genuinely good, and there were days she woke up and the anger came back fresh, not softened at all, not aged, just as sharp and immediate as it had been in that bedroom in October. She learned to stop expecting herself to feel a particular way on a particular timeline. Healing, she came to understand, does not move in a straight line from broken to whole. It moves in circles and stutters and backtracks, and then, one day, you look up and you realize you have gone a full week without the weight of it pressing on your chest when you first open your eyes. And that is progress. That is real. Today, almost 2 years after that Tuesday in October, Serena and Darius are still together. They are not back to what they were before, because what they were before was partly built on things they had never actually examined together. What they are now is something they built from rubble, which means they know exactly what went into it. It is not perfect. Some days are still difficult. But it is honest in a way their marriage had not been in a long time, and Serena has decided that honesty is worth more than the comfortable blindness she had been living in without knowing it. She and Tasha talk regularly now, not every day the way they used to, but enough. Enough to remind each other that they are still sisters underneath everything that happened. The trust is different. But the love, stubborn and persistent, never fully went away. Serena has shared her story because she wants other women, other people, to know that surviving a betrayal this close does not make you weak. Choosing to stay does not make you weak. Choosing to leave would not have made her weak either. What makes you strong is looking at the truth directly, without flinching, and deciding deliberately who you want to be on the other side of it. She says the thing she is most proud of is not that she stayed with Darius or that she forgave Tasha. The thing she is most proud of is that in the worst moment of her life, she did not lose herself. She bent, terribly, but she did not break. Now here is what I want to ask you, and I want you to really think about this before you scroll past. If you were Serena, what would you have done that night with the phone? Would you have confronted Darius right then, in the heat of it? Would you have packed a bag and left? And what about Tasha? Could you have sat down for coffee with your own sister after something like this? Or would that have been the line you could not cross back over? There is no right answer. But the fact that the question is hard tells you something true about how complicated love actually is, not just romantic love, but the love between siblings, the love you assume will always be safe, the love you never think to protect. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This community is a place where your voice matters, and stories like Serena's deserve to be heard and reflected on by all of us. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you are new here, subscribe, because we tell stories like this every week, stories about real people, real pain, and real resilience. You do not want to miss what is coming next.